April 14, 1912. A ship called Titanic, the largest and most luxurious ever built, sailed into the freezing Atlantic night. But within hours, the unsinkable marvel vanished beneath the waves, taking over 1,500 souls with it. How did the greatest ship in history disappear on its very first journey? This is the mystery of Titanic. In the early 20th century, at the zenith of the industrial age, humanity dared to dream on an unprecedented scale. Out of this ambition rose a vessel that was more than just a ship. It was conceived as a floating palace, a testament to progress, and a symbol of mankind's mastery over the elements. This was the RMS Titanic. Forged in the sprawling Harland and Wolff shipyard in Belfast, Ireland, she was the largest man-made moving object of her time. The statistics alone were staggering: a colossal 882 feet in length, over 92 feet wide, and displacing more than 52,000 tons. From keel to funnel, she stood as tall as an 11-story building. This Leviathan was the pinnacle of the White Star Line's ambition to dominate the lucrative transatlantic passenger trade, a statement of luxury and power designed to outshine all rivals. On board, the Titanic was a microcosm of Edwardian society. The upper decks housed some of the wealthiest and most influential figures in the world, including industrialist John Jacob Astor IV and mining magnate Benjamin Guggenheim. They resided in lavish suites, dined in ornate restaurants, and strolled along exclusive promenades. Below them, in second class, were professionals, clergy, and tourists, enjoying comforts that rivaled first class on other liners. And deep within the ship's hull, in the modest quarters of third class, or steerage, were hundreds of immigrants. They were families from across Europe and the Middle East, who had poured their life savings into a one-way ticket, chasing the promise of a new life in America. For them, the Titanic wasn't just a ship. It was the vessel carrying all their hopes and dreams for the future. The ship's claim to fame and the source of its hubris was its revolutionary safety design. The hull was divided into 16 watertight compartments, separated by bulkheads equipped with electric watertight doors. The ship could supposedly stay afloat even if 4 of these compartments were breached. The press and the public, captivated by this engineering marvel, bestowed upon it a fateful nickname, Unsinkable. It was a word that echoed with confidence, a belief that technology had finally conquered the perils of the North Atlantic. On April 10, 1912, under the command of the highly respected Captain Edward J. Smith, the Titanic embarked on her maiden voyage. Departing from Southampton, England, with over 2,200 souls aboard, a palpable sense of excitement and optimism filled the air. The ship was a glorious sight, a floating city of light and life setting out for New York. But as it steamed westward into the vast, cold expanse of the Atlantic, it sailed toward a destiny no one could have foreseen. Just 4 days into this celebrated journey, in the silent, freezing darkness of the night, fate was waiting. The night of April 14th was deceptively calm. The sea was like polished glass, and the sky, though star-filled, was moonless. This eerie stillness made spotting icebergs nearly impossible, as there were no waves breaking at their base to give them away. In the crow's nest, lookouts Frederick Fleet and Reginald Lee strained their eyes against the darkness, their requests for binoculars having gone unfulfilled. Then, at 11:39 p.m., Fleet saw it, a shape darker than the sea, directly in their path. He rang the lookout bell 3 times and telephoned the bridge, uttering the chilling words, "Iceberg right ahead." On the bridge, First Officer William Murdoch reacted instantly. He ordered the helm, hard a starboard, a command to turn the ship to port, away from the danger. Simultaneously, he telegraphed the engine room for full astern, a desperate attempt to reverse the massive propellers and slow the ship's momentum. But the Titanic was a behemoth, weighing over 46,000 tons and traveling at more than 20 knots. It couldn't turn on a dime. The order to reverse the engines may have sealed its fate, reducing the rudder's effectiveness and slowing the turn just enough to make a collision unavoidable. It was a race against physics that could not be won. For 37 agonizing seconds, the ship veered left, but it wasn't enough. The underwater spur of the iceberg made contact with the starboard bow. The impact wasn't a violent crash, but a subtle, grinding shudder that many passengers barely felt. Below the waterline, however, the damage was catastrophic. The immense pressure popped rivets and buckled the steel plates, opening a series of punctures along a 300-foot stretch of the hull. 6 of the ship's 16 watertight compartments were breached: the forepeak, all 3 cargo holds, and boiler rooms 6 and 5. The ship's designer, Thomas Andrews, quickly assessed the damage and delivered the grim prognosis to Captain Smith. The Titanic was designed to stay afloat with its first 4 compartments flooded, but not 5, and certainly not 6. As icy seawater poured in, the bow began to dip, allowing water to spill over the tops of the watertight bulkheads into the compartments behind them, like water filling an ice cube tray. The unsinkable ship was doomed. Andrews calculated it had, at most, 2 hours before it would disappear beneath the waves. What followed was a descent into organized chaos. The order was given to uncover the lifeboats and muster the passengers. But a sense of disbelief and complacency lingered. The ship seemed stable, the lights were on, and the band was playing lively ragtime tunes. Many passengers refused to believe the magnificent vessel was actually sinking. This confusion, combined with a poorly executed evacuation plan, led to a tragic error. The first lifeboats were launched drastically underfilled. Lifeboat 7, the first to leave, carried only 28 people, despite having a capacity for 65. The women and children first protocol was interpreted differently on opposite sides of the ship. On the port side, Second Officer Charles Lightler strictly forbade any men from entering the boats, even if there were empty seats. On the starboard side, First Officer Murdoch allowed men to board if no women were waiting. This inconsistency meant some boats left nearly empty while men were left behind. As the ship's list grew more severe, the band, led by Wallace Hartley, moved to the boat deck. They transitioned from cheerful tunes to calmer hymns, their music a small island of order in a sea of rising panic. Their final piece was reportedly the hymn, "Nearer, My God, to Thee," an act of profound courage that provided a somber, poignant soundtrack to the tragedy unfolding around them. All over the tilting decks, families faced impossible choices. Husbands like Isidore Strauss, co-owner of Macy's department store, refused to board a lifeboat before other men, and his wife Ida refused to leave his side, saying, "Where you go, I go." Their love story became a lasting symbol of devotion. Countless families were torn apart in heart-wrenching farewells. By 2:18 a.m., the strain on the ship's hull became unbearable. The stern rose high out of the water, silhouetted against the stars, with over 1,000 people still clinging to its decks. With a deafening roar of groaning steel and crashing machinery, the Titanic broke in two between the third and fourth funnels. The bow section sank quickly, while the stern settled back in the water for a moment before rising vertically one last time. Then, at 2:20 a.m. on April 15, 1912, it too slipped beneath the calm, black surface of the Atlantic, disappearing forever. For 73 years, the Titanic was more than a memory. It was a ghost, a legend swallowed by the vast, unforgiving North Atlantic. Its final resting place remained one of the 20th century's greatest maritime mysteries. The ship had vanished into the abyss, nearly 2.5 miles below the surface, where the pressure is over 6,000 pounds per square inch, a crushing, lightless world completely hostile to human exploration. Numerous expeditions, fueled by a mix of scientific curiosity and treasure-hunting ambition, had tried and failed to locate the wreck. They scoured the wrong coordinates, battled treacherous weather, and were defeated by the sheer scale of the ocean. The Titanic, it seemed, was determined to keep its secrets. But in the summer of 1985, a joint French-American expedition led by Dr. Robert Ballard of the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution brought new hope and new technology. Aboard the research vessel RV Canor, Ballard's team deployed a revolutionary deep-sea vehicle named Argo. Unlike previous attempts that searched for the hull itself, Ballard theorized that the ship would have left a long trail of debris as it sank. He decided to hunt for this field of breadcrumbs. In the final days of the expedition, with time and funding running out, the crew watched their monitors with fading optimism. Then, in the early morning hours of September 1st, a ghostly image flickered onto the screen. It wasn't the ship, but one of its massive boilers, an unmistakable artifact. The hunt was over. Dr. Ballard had found the Titanic, resting at a depth of 12,500 feet. What Argo's cameras revealed shocked the world. The majestic liner was not intact. It had split in two during its final plunge, and the bow and stern sections lay nearly 2,000 feet apart, separated by a vast field of debris. The iconic bow, though heavily damaged, was instantly recognizable, sitting upright in the mud like a silent, decaying monument. The stern, however, was a catastrophic ruin, a twisted, imploded mass of steel, barely identifiable. It was a violent, somber gravesite, preserved in the frigid, dark water. Scattered between the two main sections were thousands of artifacts, haunting reminders of the lives cut short. Unopened bottles of wine, elegant porcelain dinner plates, a child's shoe, a leather valise. These personal belongings, frozen in time, told a more intimate story than the twisted steel ever could. They transformed the wreck from a historical event into a deeply human tragedy, a sacred resting place for the more than 1,500 souls lost. The discovery also opened a new chapter of forensic investigation. For the first time, scientists could study the physical evidence to understand the unsinkable ship sank so quickly. Analysis of steel fragments brought back to the surface revealed a startling possibility. The ship's hull plates, when exposed to the near-freezing temperatures of the North Atlantic, may have become incredibly brittle, losing their ductility and shattering like glass upon impact, rather than bending. Furthermore, attention turned to the 3 million rivets holding the ship together. Metallurgists theorized that the rivets used on the bow and stern, made of lower-quality iron, were a critical weak point. When the iceberg struck, the immense force may have popped these rivets, causing the hull seams to separate and allowing water to flood in at an unstoppable rate. The mystery of the Titanic was no longer just about finding it, but about understanding the complex cascade of failures, from brittle steel and weak rivets to reckless speed and human overconfidence that sealed its fate on that cold April night. The Titanic was not just a ship, it was a lesson, a reminder that even the mightiest creations of man can fall before the forces of nature. 2,500 lives lost, but their stories still echo in the deep. The Titanic may have sunk, but the mystery and emotion behind it still rise in every heart that hears its name. Because legends never drown, they live forever. If you found this story fascinating, hit that like, subscribe, and comment below. Do you think the Titanic could have been saved? Stay tuned for more real stories behind the world's greatest mysteries.